Welcome to AWS Tutorials. In AWS Tutorials, you can find various exercises and workshops which you can use to learn about AWS services. And today we are going to talk about how you can make an IoT device talk to AWS IoT Core platform. So, and for that purpose, we are going to actually implement a scenario. And when you implement that scenario, you understand some of the fundamentals of using AWS IoT Core. So before I jump onto the scenario, let's try to understand AWS IoT platform at very high level. The AWS IoT services can be categorized into three blocks, you can say. The first block is called control services, and the control services are primarily responsible to register your device, authenticate your device, set up the communication with the gateway, handle your messages, or when I say handle the messages, basically route the messages, and then you can also use control services for fleet management, for setting the security or defense for your IoT devices, or do your firmware updates, and so on and so forth. Then second set of services are called analytics services, and as name suggests, these services actually make use of the data published by IoT devices, and they use that data for the analytics and presentation purposes. And finally, we have certain devices which are used as for the edge computing. So for instance, if you have microcontroller-based devices, then they can use FreeRTOS as a software device to do the edge computing. Similarly, if you want to do some kind of heavy lifting, then you can use IoT Greengrass, where you can set up a network of edge devices, and that network can then connect with AWS IoT to establish the to publish data to the cloud. And Greengrass can work as a edge device node, which can manage the whole local network and data aggregation, and then publishing back to the IoT core. So, so device softwares are the softwares which your edge devices can use. So that was, to be honest, very high level understanding of the IoT services. Today we are going to focus on AWS IoT Core, and we try to understand how you can make a device talk to AWS IoT Core. So let's get a level down on that one. So suppose you have a device and you have AWS IoT Core, and you want them to talk to each other. That means device can send message to the IoT Core, and IoT Core can also send message to the device. The way it works is that first you go ahead and configure device as an IoT thing inside IoT Core. And when you basically configure your device, you tell the device name, and then you also can put device under a certain group if you want to manage your device as a group. You can also add properties of the device, for example, manufacturer, serial number, or things like that. But when the devices are created, it generates IoT certificates. And these are X509 certificates which device can use to authenticate to AWS IoT Core. And these certificates are actually downloaded and then configured on the device, so that device can use them as a way to authenticate to the AWS IoT Core. Once the certificates are generated, you have to attach policies to this certificate. And these policies actually determine what permission this device will have in IoT Core. So for instance, if you want IoT Core to be able to perform only certain IoT actions only, then you can configure such authorization in the IoT policy and attach it to the IoT certificate, so that if when device connects using that certificate, it simply it is authorized to perform action based on the policies attached to the certificate. So these are the fundamental things you do to configure your device as a thing inside IoT Core. Once that is done, actually you are good to set up an MQTT based communication between the device and the IoT Core. That means device can send a message to the code and code can send a message back to the device. And to do that, you use publish subscribe model. So for instance, AWS IoT Core will have certain topics configured. Similarly, device can have topics configured, and then if device has to send some message to the IoT Core, it will simply go and publish message to this topic on the IoT side. And similarly, if IoT Core has to send a message to device, it will simply publish the message to the device topic. And then there are multiple subscribers to these topics who can simply go and handle that message and do what they want to do with that. Okay, so if you look at the AWS IoT Core side, when the message comes, then the responsibility of the core is to handle that message. That means route that message to somewhere where it can be processed. And for that, it uses IoT rule. And in IoT rule, you can go and define multiple rules depending on what topic you are interested in, or even in a topic, a message can be filtered down based on the content. And based on such filtering, you can go and define multiple rules. And for each rules, you can go and define multiple actions. And your action could be as simple as that: send this message to a queue, or send this message to a Lambda function for some processing, or send this message to the S3 bucket so that it can be stored there. So AWS IoT comes with a number of predefined IoT action which you can configure behind IoT rule to handle your message. And if you want, you can create your own custom action as well using Lambda function. So that's how your whole flow works. Your device uses IoT-based certificate-based with authentication to talk to the IoT code, sends message over MQTT protocol. Then IoT rules pick up the message based on the content or based on the topics it has been published, and then they pass on to one or more actions, and then actions actually take care of the handling of the message, which could be as simple as simply store the message, or you can also go and process the message or write a workflow on top of that. So that's how your IoT core to device communication works. Now, keeping this way of working in mind, we are going to implement a scenario in this particular tutorial through a workshop, and then we'll understand each part of this configuration. So the scenario which we are going to build today is where we will use, since we don't have any physical device over here, we are going to use MQTT client as a device simulator. But it is very similar to the devices because it also uses certificate-based authentication. And then this device will be sending MQTT message to AWS IoT Core, which IoT Core will use an IoT rule to store inside an S3 bucket. Similarly, AWS IoT Core will also send message to one of the topic published by created by a device, and device will simply receive message on that particular topic. So this is the scenario we are going to build, where you will understand each of the components of the configuration. So in order to build this scenario, we have created a workshop. You can see the link of the workshop in the description box below. And to be honest, you can simply follow the instructions in the workshop to complete this whole scenario end to end. Or if you want, you can follow me in this video. I'm going to anyway walk you through each of the steps of the configuration so that you understand how it works. It's up to you. Okay. One thing before I jump onto the workshop, one thing I want to emphasize here that in AWS Dojo we provide various other workshops and exercises like this, which you can go and run on your own pace in your own time. Okay. So let's jump onto the workshop. So here is our website, AWS Dojo, which is a site which AWS tutorials used to publish its workshop and exercises. And out of all the workshops, I have opened up a particular workshop which we are going to use today to understand device to IoT core communication. So let's click on the link to start the workshop. And you can see here that there are various steps which you can perform to complete the task. So let's go through each of the steps one by one, and I will explain you what's doing. So let's start with that. First of all, we will go ahead and create certain roles inside AWS. So AWS services use role-based authorization. That means if AWS IoT has to say write data into S3 bucket, then it needs a role-based authorization to write data to the S3 bucket. And in this case, we are creating certain roles which IoT device will be your AWS IoT will be configured to talk to the other services. This workshop we are doing into the Paris region, but you can choose your own region. So what we are doing in this step is that we are going to the IAM role and then simply creating an IoT creating a role with the name. Sorry, I'm so blubbering here, but yeah, we are creating a role and attaching it to IoT service, and then we go to the next step, which is about adding some tags, which we are simply bypassing, and then you finally go to the page where you have to provide the role name, and we are providing this Dojo IoT role as the name name of the this particular role. So this is the role which we will use in the remaining of the task to configure the IoT services. So once a role has been created, we are also creating an S3 bucket. And if you remember the scenario when the message comes from the device, we store that inside an IoT bucket. And this is the bucket we have created for the scenario. It might happen that when you do this workshop, this bucket name is not available. In that case, you are free to use a bucket which is available and simply use that for the configuration. So let's move on to the next step, which is registering the device. After the first step, then we go to the AWS IoT Core, and first of all we create a policy because once we create a device, it will generate certificate. And then it will ask the certificate to be associated with a policy. So let's create a policy first. And you can see here we are creating a Dojo device policy. And it has been given, like, for instance, all permission, just to keep it simple. However, if you are doing a production implementation, you will like to go for more specific configuration. So you can say that this device can publish only messages only on the following topics, or this device can receive messages only on certain topics. So you can really configure device to use specific actions on a specific topic only. But we try to keep it simple here and say, hey, let's since it's more of a understanding the communication, let's allow all IoT actions in this policy. So once the policy is created, we are going to create the device. And in order to create device, we go and click on creating a single thing. We give a name to the device, for instance, those are device 1, and then we go to the next step. What will happen is that on the next step, it will ask that do you want to create the certificate for device, and you say yeah, you want to create a certificate. It will generate X509 certificates. You can see that it has created the certificate over here. Now these certificates you have to download, because these certificates have to be copied to your device so that device can use this certificate to authenticate to AWS IoT Core. So you're downloading your certificate over here, and once you have downloaded the certificate, it asks you that do you want to attach a policy to this certificate, because certificates are used for authentication, but what kind of authorization this certificate-based device will have, that is only determined by the policy here. So we are then associating these certificates with the policy over here, and we will simply use the policy we created in the earlier step, which basically gives access to all IoT actions. Finally, you go to the interact sub-tab over here, and with there you note down the IoT endpoint, and this is the broker address. So when device talks to the IoT core, it needs a gateway address, a broker address where it can send the message, and then that message is handled by IoT Core and processed forward. So this is the URL of the endpoint, and then you have to make note of this because we will use it later when we try to communicate from device to the IoT core. Okay, so that was very much on setting up the thing. So now we have registered a device inside IoT Core as a thing. We have generated certificate for that, attached policy to it, and we have also make note of the broker address. Now we can go to the client and set up the client. And client, when I say client here, that is device. So since we don't have any physical device over here, we are going to use MQTT client and configure this as a device. And this is a good client for simulations, guys, because it also authenticates using certificates. And I have provided a link through which you can go and download this on your machine. Okay, so we start this particular client, and first you have to set up the connection configuration. So we are giving a good name to the connection configuration. Then you can see here that we are providing the broker address, which we have copied from the earlier step. Then we are also providing the broker port. So the gateway talks on the port 8883, so we are providing that. And then we move on to set up the authentication configuration. And you can see here that the certificate which I downloaded for the device, actually that we have configured here so that when this device communicates, it communicates using this certificate for these certificates for the authentication. So we provide that. And then we save this profile. And actually, once you save this profile, you can click on the connect button over here. And when you click on the connect button, actually, let me show you here, it turns green on the right-hand side. And if it turns green, that means your device can authenticate to the AWS IoT Core using these certificates. That means your device is ready. And actually, you can communicate now. But before we start communicating, I want to set up also the IoT rule so that when the message comes, it can be stored inside S3 bucket, which we created in one of the earlier steps. So you move on to the next step, which is create IoT rule. And you go back to your AWS IoT console and say, I want to create a new rule. And then in the rule, you simply say that I'm going to look into all the messages coming to the topic IoT Dojo inbound. Now, this is the topic name which IoT Core will create, and the device will send message to. And all you're saying here is that, hey, I'm simply interested in all messages coming to this particular topic. But very well, you can do the content. You can do the content inspection for the message itself, and then you can also make rules depending on a particular content. But in this case, we are saying let's keep it simple. Any messages coming to this particular topic from the device, I'm interested in that. And then you go ahead and set up an action. And I'll say that there's a long list of action over here which you can take. But we are going in this scenario simply dump this message into S3 bucket. So we choose store a message in an S3 bucket as an action. And when you do that, actually, it will ask you to configure that. And in this case, we're simply configuring which bucket and what is the key or what is the object name to select when storing the data. Okay, so you configure basically that when this message gets stored into S3 bucket, what is the object name going to be, which bucket it is going to be, which is the same bucket you created earlier. At this point of time, you also mentioned the role you created earlier, because if IoT wants to write something to S3, then IoT needs to have proper authorization for that. And this role is providing that authorization to the device, to the IoT rule over here. So you configure your action and then you save everything. So now we have also building the backend system that when the message comes, we know how it is going to stored in the S3 bucket. So what we do now, let's go ahead and test this whole communication. So first thing you do device to IoT communication. Remember that we used IoT Dojo inbound as a topic to send to handle the message. So this is the topic. First of all, we are publishing this topic. So IoT Core is publishing this topic so that it can receive message on this particular topic. So first you go ahead and publish this topic from the IoT Core. Then you go to your device, your MQTT client, and then you first connect your MQTT client using the profile you have created earlier, using the certificates, and then you simply say to this topic, I'm simply publishing a message saying test message for the device, yeah, and simply click on the publish button. Now, what you're doing from device side is that you're saying device not only connect to the IoT Core, but also publish this particular message to this particular topic. And when you do that and you go back to your IoT console, you can see that this message has been received. Okay, so this is this is what happens. This message came to IoT Core, then it will picked up by IoT rule to go and store inside S3 bucket, and that will happen automatically behind the scene. And to verify that, you can go to your IoT to the bucket which you configured for the message storage, and you can see that your data is already stored into that bucket. So this flow shows you how your device to IoT Core communication works. Let's see other way around. When you want your IoT Core to send a message to the device, and for that purpose, actually, you have to the client has to say that, hey, I'm going to subscribe for a topic where I'm expecting IoT Core to send some message. So the device simply says I'm subscribing with this IoT Dojo outbound to receive the outbound communication. So device, your MQTT client will subscribe to this topic. Then in your IoT console in AWS, you can simply go and publish a message to this one. I'm simply using the default message, which comes with the console for test purposes. And you click on the publish button after you mention your topic name here and the message over here. And when you publish to this topic, what happens is that if you go back to your MQTT client, under the subscribe tab, you can see that message has been received. So you can see that the IoT Core is also able to use PubSub model to send a message back to device over the topic which device was actively looking into or subscribed to receive the message. So this shows you communication from IoT Core to the device. Okay, so that's actually very much finishes the workshop, because you understand how you can make your device and IoT Core talk to each other both way, and what are the fundamentals involved in terms of authenticating and authorizing the service, and also handling the message in the backend. Let's go to the last, and I understand it's very important step, that is cleanup. Because if you're doing this workshop and you're not cleaning up, you might incur cost. Probably not that much in this case because you're using serverless technologies. But if you do some other workshop where some really compute instances are involved, and costs are higher. But you might want to follow this last step here to simply go and delete one by one the IoT rule, the device thing itself, the policy, remove the certificates, and also remove the bucket and the role. And when you do that, actually your account will be reset, and you'll be you'll be back to the stage where you were when we started the workshop. So that ends the workshop here, or this exercise here, where you learn how your IoT core and devices can talk to each other. There are many other similar workshops available in our AWS Dojo website, which is again the website part of the AWS tutorial. And you can use these workshops and exercises free to learn about AWS services. If you like this workshop, please click on the like button. If you have any feedback in terms of improving, or for anything you like or didn't like, or any new content, please provide us the comment either on the YouTube channel or on our website. And please hit the subscribe button to learn about more such videos coming in the coming days. Thank you very much.